Before we delve into this gripping narrative, please share in the comments where you're tuning in from to experience this poignant tale. The call that changed everything. It was a slow evening at the county's emergency dispatch center, the kind where time dragged, and the only sound filling the room was the occasional rustling of paperwork or the quiet hum of computer monitors. Dispatcher Claire Bennett sat at her desk, sipping lukewarm coffee, flipping through reports from the day. That's when the call came in. 911. What's your emergency? Claire answered in her calm, practiced voice. For a moment, there was only silence, followed by rapid breathing. Then, a small, trembling voice spoke. Hi. My name is Lily. I'm 8. My brother Logan is with me. He's 8 too. We're twins. We. A muffled sniffle. Claire's training kicked in. Kids calling 911 was never normal. Something was wrong. It's okay, sweetheart. Take a deep breath. You're doing great. Can you tell me what's happening? There was a rustling noise, then a whisper. Daddy is going to lock us in the basement tonight. Claire straightened in her chair. She glanced at the screen. Location services had pinpointed the call. Okay, Lily, listen to me carefully. Are you and Logan safe right now? We're in the closet, Lily whispered. Daddy doesn't know we have the phone. We're scared. He says we have to be good, or we stay down there forever. Claire forced herself to keep her voice even. Sweetheart, I need you to stay quiet, okay? Keep the phone on. Help is coming. You're so brave. Lily exhaled shakily. Will the police come fast? Claire's fingers flew over the keyboard as she relayed the details to the officers on duty. The call was flight urgent. Dispatchers weren't supposed to show emotion, but as a mother herself, Claire's heart squeezed. They're already on their way, Lily. Can you stay on the line with me? Yes, but what if Daddy hears them? Claire paused. That was the terrifying part of domestic calls. Officers needed to approach carefully. If their father sensed trouble, things could turn dangerous quickly. The next few minutes dragged as Lily's soft breaths filled the line. Suddenly, there was a faint noise in the background. A deep voice. Lily? Logan? Where are you? Claire's pulse spiked. The father was looking for them. Lily gasped. She whispered frantically to Logan. Claire muted herself for a second and spoke directly to the officers over radio. Suspect is active in the house. Kids are hiding. Approach quietly. She took a breath and unmuted. Lily, hold Logan's hand. Stay quiet, okay? A floorboard creaked. Then, a heavy knock against what sounded like a door. Where are you two hiding? The father's voice was calm, almost mocking. Come out now, or you're not eating tomorrow. Lily whimpered. Claire's heart pounded. She checked her screen. ETA. 30 seconds. Lily, the police are right outside. Claire whispered. They'll keep you safe. A sudden boom rattled the line, the sound of something crashing open. The closet door. Lily screamed. And then, sirens. Red and blue lights flooded the street. Police opened the door. Glass shattered. A scuffle. Then, the deafening sound of a man shouting in protest before being forcibly dragged outside. Claire held her breath. Lily. Logan. For a terrifying moment, there was only silence. Then, a quiet sniffle. We're okay, Lily whispered. Claire finally let go of the breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. But as she watched the status update flash across the screen, children safe, suspect in custody, she had a sinking feeling. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The monsters we fear. The night air was thick with tension, the kind that lingers long after the sirens fade. The flashing lights cast eerie shadows against the house, illuminating the cracked front steps, the rusted mailbox barely hanging onto its post, and the overgrown weeds that had long since swallowed the yard. Inside a patrol car parked near the driveway, Lily and Logan sat curled up in the backseat, wrapped in emergency blankets that were far too big for their small frames. The heat from the car's vents did little to stop the trembling in their fingers. Deputy Ryan Callahan watched them from the front seat, his fingers drumming lightly against the steering wheel. He had seen a lot in his 10 years on the force: abandoned children, bruised faces, shattered lives. But something about these kids unsettled him. It wasn't just their fear, it was the way they held each other, as if they were the only thing tethering each other to the world. He turned slightly, lowering his voice. "You guys hungry?" Lily hesitated before nodding. Logan, silent until now, kept his gaze fixed on the floor. Ryan reached into his glove compartment and pulled out 2 granola bars. "It's not much, but it's got chocolate chips. I used to love these when I was your age." Lily took one, passing it to Logan before accepting her own. "Thank you," she whispered. Ryan nodded. "You guys did real good tonight. You were brave." Logan finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Will Daddy come back?" Ryan exhaled slowly, measuring his words. "No, buddy. He won't." Lily looked up then, her big brown eyes filled with something heavier than fear: doubt. She didn't believe him. Ryan didn't blame her. Before he could say more, the passenger door opened, and Officer Michelle Hart slid into the seat beside him. She let out a deep sigh, rubbing the bridge of her nose. "He's booked. Charges are stacking up. Child endangerment, unlawful confinement, domestic violence." She glanced back at the kids, but he's not talking. Lawyered up fast. Ryan clenched his jaw. Of course he did. Michelle hesitated before lowering her voice. "We need to call CPS. They need placement for the night." At that, Lily gripped Logan's hand tighter. "No," she blurted out, voice panicked. Please don't take us away. We'll be good, I promise." Ryan's heart sank. "Lily, we're not taking you away. We just need to find somewhere safe for you to stay tonight. Do you have family?" The twins exchanged a look, one of those silent conversations only siblings could have. "Our mom," Logan mumbled. Michelle frowned. "Your mother, where is she?" Lily bit her lip. She's gone." A cold weight settled in Ryan's stomach. "Gone where, sweetheart?" Lily hesitated. "Daddy said she left us." Ryan and Michelle locked eyes. They'd heard this before. Parents didn't just leave kids and never come back, not without a reason. Ryan cleared his throat, softening his tone. "Sweetheart, when was the last time you saw your mom?" Lily looked down. "I don't remember." Michelle took out her notepad. "What's her name?" Lily hesitated. "Lillian Porter," Logan finally answered. Michelle wrote it down quickly, passing Ryan a look. "I'll run it through the system." Ryan nodded. But in his gut, he already knew. This wasn't just about an abusive father. This was bigger, and something told him they were about to uncover something far worse than 2 kids locked in a basement. A mother's silence. The quiet hum of the police cruiser was the only sound in the cold night air. The flashing lights had long since stopped, leaving the small house in eerie silence, but the weight of what had happened still hung thick in the air. Deputy Ryan Callahan sat in the front seat, fingers drumming against the steering wheel, his mind racing. He had handled tough calls before, broken homes, shattered childhoods, but something about this one felt different. It wasn't just the abuse. It wasn't just the fear in the kids' eyes. It was the silence. Lily and Logan sat curled in the back seat, still wrapped in their oversized emergency blankets, their small fingers clutching the granola bars Ryan had given them earlier. They weren't crying. They weren't talking. They just sat there, like 2 little ghosts trapped between one nightmare and the next. Ryan stole a glance at his partner, Michelle Hart, who was typing furiously on the cruiser's onboard computer. The name Lillian Porter flickered on the screen. Missing persons reports, old case files, and scattered records filled the database. "She's in the system," Michelle muttered under her breath. Ryan frowned. Run it again. Michelle clicked through the files. Her face hardened. She's been missing for 2 years. Ryan's grip on the steering wheel tightened. That wasn't right. 2 years. That meant the last time anyone officially saw Lillian Porter was when the twins were 6 years old. But Lily and Logan said their father told them she left. Which meant one thing. He had been lying. Ryan turned in his seat, his voice careful. Lily, Logan, sweetheart, I need you to think real hard. The last time you saw your mom, what do you remember? Lily hesitated, her tiny fingers gripping the blanket tighter. Logan stared at the granola bar in his hands like he wasn't sure what to do with it. I remember she tucked us in, Lily whispered finally. She kissed us goodnight. Ryan nodded, encouraging. That's good. Do you remember what she was wearing? A blue dress, Logan murmured, his voice barely audible. Something about the way he said it made Ryan's stomach churn. Did she say anything? Lily's lips trembled. She told us she loved us. Ryan's heart squeezed. But then Logan spoke again. She was crying. A chill ran down Ryan's spine. Michelle clicked on another file. A police report. Filed 2 years ago. It wasn't an official missing persons case. It had been labeled a wellness check. A neighbor had called about a domestic disturbance at the Porter house. But when officers arrived, the husband, Thomas Porter, claimed everything was fine. His wife had simply left him and the kids. The report had been closed. Ryan clenched his jaw. 2 years. 2 whole years. And no one had followed up. No one had checked if a mother of 2 young children had ever been found. They had taken the father's word for it. And now, that father was sitting in a holding cell while his kids sat in the back of a police cruiser, too afraid to even ask where they were going next. Michelle, Ryan said, voice tight. She didn't need him to finish. I'm already on it, she muttered, picking up her radio. Dispatch, I need any records of Lillian Porter. Last known address, any employment records, family contacts. Anything. The radio crackled. Copy that. Officer Hart. Searching now. Ryan turned back to the twins. You guys are doing great. We're gonna find out what happened, okay? Lily's voice was so small, Ryan almost missed it. What if we don't want to know? Ryan paused. Because deep down, he understood. Some answers were worse than silence. The secrets buried beneath us. The hum of the police radio crackled softly, breaking the stillness of the patrol car. Outside, the moon hung low over the quiet street, casting long shadows over the neighborhood. It should have been peaceful. It wasn't. Deputy Ryan Callahan sat motionless in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. His gaze flickered between the twins in the backseat and the computer screen, where Officer Michelle Hart was still pulling up records on Lillian Porter. Nothing about this case made sense. A mother missing for 2 years. A father arrested for abuse. 2 terrified kids who had no idea what had really happened. But what haunted Ryan most was what Lily had just said. What if we don't want to know? He had seen this before. Kids who grew up in bad homes learned something most people never had to. The truth could hurt worse than a lie. And right now, he had a sinking feeling the truth about their mother was going to hurt. Michelle let out a breath beside him. I got something. Ryan turned to her. Talk to me. She pulled up an address on the screen. Lillian Porter was reported missing. But guess what? There was no formal investigation. No next of kin filed a report. Her husband said she left voluntarily, and no one ever questioned it. Ryan clenched his jaw. How the hell does a woman vanish and no one follows up? Michelle scrolled through the records. Wait, there's more. Ryan leaned in. She pointed at the screen. Before she disappeared, Lillian Porter went to the police. Twice. Domestic violence reports. Both times, she tried to file a restraining order. Ryan swore under his breath. And Michelle's face darkened. Both times, she dropped it. Ryan exhaled sharply. Classic. Abusers knew how to manipulate their victims, how to scare them into silence. And if Lillian Porter had been scared enough to drop 2 restraining orders, then there was no way in hell she left her kids voluntarily. Something happened to her. Ryan turned back to the twins. Lily sat curled into herself, fingers twisting in the fabric of the emergency blanket. Logan, still holding his half-eaten granola bar, looked like he hadn't blinked in minutes. Ryan kept his voice soft. "Lily, Logan, I need you to think real hard, okay? When your mom left, did your dad say where she went?" Lily shook her head. Logan, however, swallowed hard. Ryan caught the hesitation. "Buddy." Logan didn't look up. He said she was downstairs. A chill slid down Ryan's spine. "Downstairs," Michelle repeated, voice tight. Logan's fingers clenched around the wrapper. He said Mommy was bad. That's why she had to go downstairs. And if we weren't good, we'd go there too. The patrol car was silent. Ryan forced his voice to stay even. "Logan, buddy, when was the last time your dad said that?" Logan hesitated. Then, in a whisper, he answered, "Tonight." Michelle reached for the radio so fast she nearly knocked over her coffee. "Dispatch, we need a forensic unit at the Porter residence. Immediately." The voice on the other end crackled. "Copy that, Officer Hart. What's the urgency?" Michelle's hands tightened into fists. "We need to check the basement. The House of Lies." It was past midnight by the time the forensic team arrived. The Porter house, once quiet and dark, was now swarmed with officers, crime scene investigators, and flashing red and blue lights. Ryan stood near the front porch, arms crossed, watching as techs set up floodlights to illuminate the property. He could feel the tension in the air. Because if their hunch was right, something was waiting in that basement. Michelle walked up beside him. "They're about to go in." Ryan nodded, glancing back toward the patrol car where Lily and Logan were still sitting. He had told them to stay put, but he could feel their eyes on him. They weren't just watching. They were waiting. A team of officers moved into the house, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Inside, the place was eerily still. The walls were stained with age, the furniture worn down to threads. It was the kind of house that held secrets. They'd reached the basement door. It was locked. "Break it," one of the officers said. A crowbar wedged into the frame. A sharp snap echoed through the house as the old wood splintered. The door swung open. A wave of cold, damp air rushed out. Flashlights cut through the darkness as officers descended the creaking stairs. The basement smelled of mildew and earth, like it hadn't been disturbed in a long time. But then, Jesus Christ! Ryan heard the words through the radio before he heard the next sound. A body had been found. Buried truths. Ryan stood at the top of the basement stairs, watching as crime scene investigators moved through the cold, damp space. The room was small, the walls made of crumbling concrete. In the corner, half buried beneath old storage boxes and dirt, was a shallow grave. Michelle inhaled sharply beside him. "Oh my God." Ryan didn't say anything. He didn't have to. They had found her. Lillian Porter, a woman who had once tried to escape, who had begged for help, who had never left. Ryan closed his eyes for a brief moment before turning to Michelle. "Get CPS on the phone. The kids. They need to know." Michelle hesitated. "Ryan, how do you tell 2 kids their mom was buried under their feet this whole time?" Ryan exhaled. "You don't sugarcoat it. You don't lie. You tell them. Their mom tried, and she never stopped loving them." Michelle's eyes burned. "Let's go," she whispered. They stepped outside. Lily and Logan were waiting. And tonight, the only thing Ryan could promise them was the truth. The light beyond the dark. The air outside was still, yet the weight of what lay beneath that house seemed to suffocate the entire street. Officers moved in hushed tones, crime scene tape fluttering under the dim glow of streetlights. But in the patrol car parked near the driveway, Two children sat frozen in time, their eyes wide with something deeper than fear. Lily and Logan weren't just waiting. They knew. Ryan Callahan ran a hand down his face, exhaustion pulling at him, but there was no time for that. He and Michelle Hart stood just outside the car, looking in. "How do we do this?" Michelle whispered. Ryan exhaled. "The only way we can." And then he opened the door. Lily flinched. Logan tensed, but neither looked away. Ryan crouched down to their level, his voice steady but soft. "We found her." Lily's lip trembled. "Monty." Ryan nodded. "She didn't leave you. She never left you." Silence. The kind of silence that suffocates, that shatters. Lily curled into herself, but Logan didn't move. He just stared straight ahead, his small hands gripping the emergency blanket. And then, with a voice that didn't sound like it belonged to an 8-year-old, he asked, "Did Daddy do it?" Ryan looked into those deep, broken eyes that had seen too much. And then he told them the truth. "Yes." Lily let out a soft, broken sob. She buried her face into her knees. Logan just nodded, slow, mechanical, like a boy who had already suspected the answer but needed to hear it anyway. Ryan let the moment sit. Let them breathe. Grieve. Then he said, "But you're safe now. He can't hurt you anymore." Logan swallowed hard. He already did. Ryan's throat tightened, because he was right. The scars weren't just bruises or nights and locked away. The damage was inside them, buried deep like their mother had been. But scars didn't mean the fight was over. Ryan reached into his pocket and pulled something out, a small silver badge. It wasn't his police badge. It was something simpler. A pin his father had given him when he was a kid, back when he had needed something to hold on to. A small shield. He held it out. "This belonged to my dad. He gave it to me when I was little, told me that no matter how bad things got, I was stronger than I thought." Logan hesitated before slowly reaching out. His fingers brushed the cold metal. "You and Lily," Ryan said, voice steady. "You're the strongest kids I've ever met." Logan's grip tightened around the pin. Lily looked up then, her tear-streaked face filled with something new, not just grief, but fight. "We don't want to go to a foster home," she whispered. Michelle stepped closer, her voice gentle. "We're going to find you somewhere safe. Somewhere good." Lily wiped her nose on her sleeve. "Can you promise?" Ryan looked at her, at Logan, and then, for the first time that night, he smiled. Yes. 1 year later, the sun was warm, spilling golden light over the small park. Children laughed in the distance, their voices ringing through the crisp autumn air. On a nearby bench, Ryan Callahan sat watching as Lily and Logan ran through the grass, their laughter mixing with the wind. They weren't the same kids from that night. Logan, once silent and withdrawn, was now full of energy. He still carried the small silver pin in his pocket, a habit he never let go of. Lily, still protective of her brother, had learned to let herself breathe again. They had been placed with a foster family who actually cared. A family that gave them warm meals, safe nights, and a chance to heal. Ryan had kept his promise. Michelle sat beside him, sipping her coffee. She nudged his shoulder. "You check in on them too much." Ryan smirked. "Not possible." She rolled her eyes but smiled. "You thinking about adoption?" Ryan laughed, shaking his head. "I think they're exactly where they need to be." Michelle raised a brow. "But?" Ryan looked at the twins, stronger, happier, alive. And he knew they would never truly be alone again. Because family wasn't just blood. It was the people who stayed.